And hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. And yes, it's getting closer. You can see it coming around the corner. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Fall sports will be starting in count 'em, 1 week. That's right. So we'll be talking about that a little bit today, plus a lot of other developments going on in Louisville women's sports activities. Certainly sorry that we missed you all last week. I decided to take the week off, and the boys were so heartbroken about it. They decided not to do a show on behalf of me being unable to do the show. I'm sure that was the reason. I want to believe that was the reason, but not laziness or anything like that. But we're glad to be back with you this week. That's for sure. And we'll have a lot of fun with it as we like to do. Kind of introduce the crew in here today. Daryl was not with us this morning. She's sitting on babies. Babysitting. I'm sorry. I saw that backwards. Daryl is babysitting and could not be with us. So, Aunt Daryl, if you're listening, do the babysitting. Don't do the sitting on babies. It's a lot better for the child. Uh, but we're going to miss her. Hopefully, we'll get her back in here next week. But we do have a strong foursome here to bring to you today. And we'll kind of start out. Jeff McAdams and I were discussing rocketry before the broadcast. And no, we're not going to send any basketball players to the moon or anything. Don't worry about that. Jeff is going to be firing 3-foot rockets into the air. So everybody head to your fallout shelter.
Well, hopefully, it's actually going to be my nephew really doing it. He's been a space nerd for a while. We've talked space launches a lot, and as kind of an extension of that, he's decided well, he hasn't just decided. He started building a model rocket, and he tabbed me to get some electronics set up and for telemetry, data gathering, logging, transmission, stuff like that. So been working on that. Been working on what gear to get, how to set it up, how to fit it into the rocket is actually kind of a challenge. And what setup we want to do with that, and eventually it's going to be writing code to support it. So figure that out. But it's kind of fun. It's he's my nephew is preteen, and he's a lot of fun. He gets into things heavily, and brings me along for the ride on some things. It's a great learning opportunity for me as well as him. So yeah, having a lot of fun with it.
So you get to be a little technical support here and have no official responsibilities at all, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's his initiative. He'll launch it. He doesn't. He's not a programmer. Really hasn't learned programming yet, although he has an interest in it. So I'm probably going to work with him a little bit on that as I do some of the coding for it. So I'm trying to be the cool uncle,
Yeah.
So help him learn and understand, and I learn some things in the process. So it's a win for everybody.
And we did determine this is not going to be a manned flight, correct?
No, it's about a 3-foot tall rocket. He did, however, the rocket he's building has the rocket tube, right? And he has actually put 2 side little boosters. I'm using air quotes on the boosters on the side. There's no like power in the boosters; they're just on the side. And I asked him about it, and he said that's for carrying payload. So like he's serious about this, and it's a well designed, it's well put together so far. It's not complete yet, but he actually kind of from the very beginning had this vision of launching data telemetry, gathering and all this stuff with it. So he's serious about it. We've actually had to kind of temper some of that. Yes, I was like, so what about using like the electronics to like fire the rocket? I went, theoretically possible, maybe a little beyond my capability right now. Let's walk before we run here.
Has he played Kerbal Space Program?
Oh God, yes.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Extensively.
I can see it now. Russia vetoes NATO inclusion of Jeff's nephew.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's a lot of fun. He's a delight to work with. Sometimes you have to hold him back a little bit sometimes because his ideas get a little bit ahead of his abilities. But
unbridled spirit. That's what the Kentucky motto is. So there you go. You got that working for you.
Yep.
Best of luck for that, and let me know because I've still got my hard hat from when I work construction.
Yeah.
I'll be putting that on.
If the parachute doesn't deploy, that can be a real Just dart coming down.
I can just see it now. Yeah, breaking into the local broadcast. Foreign power dropping 3-foot rockets on Louisville,
Yeah.
Kentucky. Case Hoskins in the house as well. Case back from COVID, who had a little bout with that and hasn't been tested in a while. So he's not sure where he's at on it, but he's feeling fine. He's just forgetting stuff every once in a
Well,
while.
I went. I've gone through plenty of articles that tell me that once you're outside your 10 days or whatever, you should be fine, and that testing negative, it means you probably won't spread COVID, and if you test positive after 10 days, then who knows? You may or may not spread COVID. It's like, well, that's an annoying position to be in, but Lindsay tested negative, and she was about 2 days behind me, so I'm feeling fine about it. I did the brain stab every day
Nope.
for 6 days in a row at home trying to see what was going on. So made it over 900 days. This was the first time we had COVID, so made it long time before it finally got us. But
We're
we
certainly
fell
glad
victim.
that you're on the road to recovery here and back to normal again. Certainly, Jared, who also is Jared's had a great last half of July and early
He's having
August.
tons of fun.
Yeah, just how many minutes is it going to take for you to describe, Jared, all the things that have happened to you in the last 3-4 weeks here? Jeez.
Oh goodness, I have no idea. Right after 4th of July, a couple days later, I picked up a pretty bad cold that knocked me out for a day and a half. And a couple weeks after that, tested positive for COVID. No noticeable symptoms when I was positive, and I kind of passed those first 5, 6, 7 days. And there's a little bit of like compressed breathing, I guess. Kind of felt like somebody was sitting on me while I was trying to breathe. That seems to have gone away. Excuse me. And then not long after that, last week, picked up food poisoning. And we'll say by an unnamed restaurant, not to call them out on here. And I wasn't trying to be mean when I like sent them a message online or whatever. It's just like, hey, make sure your people are cooking the food all the way through, because when I'd gotten my sandwich, and I'm pretty sure the chicken was just highly undercooked, but seeing that there's a slice of cheese just sitting on top of it that you could tell had just gotten opened out of the wrapper, they didn't try and cook it at all, was probably a clear indication they didn't really cook the sandwich well. So they responded and said, sorry for your inconvenience. We'd like to offer you a free meal. And I'm thinking, that's a clear sense of irony you've got going on there with your humor. Hey,
I like
Katie.
it.
Katie said she would take it, so I'm working on getting that from them. And it kind of occurred to me recently that throughout all of this, I had bought a new camera right before I got the cold, or new for me, it was used from somebody else. And I'm like, oh, I need to probably toy with that and figure it out before next Friday when soccer starts up.
If they didn't get you the first time, we'll get his girlfriend. I love the strategy
Right.
there. Nice.
It's one of those, oh man, we didn't kill him that first time. Let's try again.
One of those deals. One of those deals. Case, what's going on in your world?
Back in business in a new job. It was funny because I started the new job and then went to a concert where I promptly got COVID. So after my first week, I worked from home right up until, I guess, Thursday. Thursday I went back in the office, and then we were moving suites in our building. So that was mostly just moving, and then my boss was on vacation. My other coworker was getting ready to leave. So I worked from home again yesterday. So I've been in the office a total of 5 of 14 possible days since starting my new job. So that's been fun, but
it's 5 too many as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, I learned that there's a whole different feeling and mindset to getting to work from home and choosing to work from home and being like forced to work from home. Because this week when I kept testing positive and I just felt so deflated. Like I just want to get back and like get back in the groove of things, especially starting a new job, and feeling like that choice is taken away from you is a little frustrating. It puts you in a weird mindset to try and work.
I will say, as someone who permanently works from home, working remote sort of situation, there are definitely aspects of my day that I have designed around making sure I get out of the house, because it would be easy not to. So yeah,
Yeah, Lindsay works from home full time, so this is
yeah.
just a whole different. I think I really sapped her motivation by being completely unmotivated all week. But I did get around to finally building some Lego. I bought the McLaren F1 car Lego set and
Ooh.
finally got to build that. So that was nice.
And just think about it, when sports season does roll around, you can get into all the office jackpots case. So that'll be great. Be back into that and then talk about the Derby draw. Wow.
With all three of us.
Absolutely. You get 7 horses here. How can you lose, right? And as for self, enjoyed the last weekend off as we went out and kind of went on a little sea of our Kentucky State Parks system. Went around and visited a few of those in the northern Kentucky, eastern Kentucky area.
That
Spent
was
the night at
before they got flooded.
Yeah. We didn't
Oh,
get that far down.
okay.
Fortunately, we were up near Ashland area as far east as we went,
Yeah.
and the rest of it was up in northern Kentucky area, which there are a couple really nice ones up there. If you've never been to either a Big Bone Lick or General Butler State Resort Park, I recommend both. Very neat. Very neat to see what's going on in those. Had fun with that, and then I've been kind of tracking some of the news that's been going on. Was able to actually sit down and not sit down, but have a nice phone conversation with the new women's sports SID at Louisville for women's basketball, women's soccer, and lacrosse. A very nice young man who comes to us from Notre Dame and Matt Paris, and I'll be actually meeting with him Monday to kind of introduce myself, tell him about the other gangsters in Cardinal Cupperell, and give him photos if needed, so he can spot us and give orders, shoot to kill. But that should be fun. So we'll have some fun with him. See what goes on with that. Scheduling and Twitter, certainly something that might be even a little bit bigger this week. My gracious goodness gracious. So, Case, give us your best on scheduling and Twitter.
A little bit better is even a generous descriptor. There is an item on the schedule, and when you hit expand collapse all dates, it doesn't drop down the whole week for next week. Jared mentioned it in yesterday's article. Women's soccer is first on the calendar, so they will host Cincinnati in an exhibition match at Lynn Stadium, Dr. Mark and Sidney Lynn Stadium. I had to remember which one was which for a second there. It's been so long since I've said it. That one is at 7:30 on Friday night. The men also have an exhibition next week, but it's not until Saturday evening, and it is away, so kind of irrelevant. Women's soccer will also kick off the regular season for fall sports. That match will be versus UIC, Illinois Carbondale, at or Illinois Chicago. I'm not sure.
I think it's Chicago, UIC, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's Southern Illinois. SIUC is Carbondale, but yes, University or Illinois Chicago. That one's 7:30 on Thursday, the 18th of August. And then the red and black scrimmage is volleyball. Jeff, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is the next sport to begin their events on the 20th.
Yep.
Which it seems like field hockey is not on here.
Usually is up there. Yeah.
It should be with the alumni game.
So
and stuff
field
like that.
hockey isn't on the master schedule.
Yeah,
the
it's not on the
composite
general schedule. There's if you go to the field hockey schedule, it's there.
Yes, they
But-
they will
next-
have
next,
they will have their
couple
first
weekends.
scrimmage on the 19th at Miami University.
And you guys can go to the right-hand side of the site of Cardinal Couple, where I've got all 3 of those sports listed with their schedules.
I'm gonna have to start comparing the site to the composite
Yeah,
calendar.
indeed.
It's just not having the one of the primary fall sports on the composite calendar is a little odd, especially when the first game is within 2 weeks. But
I wonder if I suspect that's an oversight of some sort. But
I would think.
well, it's just like when we got volleyball, well before they announced the schedule, we just found
Yeah.
it on there. So
yeah,
somebody's not pressing the right buttons on the
yeah,
calendar.
or at the right time at least. Yeah.
Yeah. But that is the schedule. I'm gonna try and make it out to that women's soccer exhibition next week, so that should be a good time. As for Twitter, if I am out there, I'll be live tweeting that game. You can follow me at best case scenario, BST case scenario. Paulie is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jeff McAdams. Jared is at Mr. Anderson Jared. And Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4. As always, you can check out the right side of the site near where that scheduling blurb is. There's also a Twitter widget that has a list, running Twitter list of all of the U of L athletics that we cover here, and they tweet all kinds of fun things. So you could follow those and follow us as well, just right there in the list.
So you're
Absolutely.
saying we need to talk Jeff and Daryl into going next Friday too, and we'll have the full squad.
See, Jared, why can't you just be happy with the trio?
I might, if it's not like 197 degrees.
You know, Jeff will show up if Jeff shows up. We'll all know
Yeah.
Jeff is there. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Daryl, that's probably my long shot of this 5-horse race. Okay.
Yeah,
Get
with
in
the
Daryl out. I don't
Friday
know.
being a high of 81 with no
81 partly
expected
cloudy.
rain.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
could deal with that. I'll probably will be out there then if
That's
that
a
if that comes to
beautiful-
pass. Yeah.
So now, Jared, your whole intent and purpose now is to bully Daryl into showing up. Okay. That way you
I
can get a
will,
complete 5 for 5 from Cardinal Couple. So I expect the defamatory remarks and the disparaging comments at any time now. Poor Daryl. Let's warn
Let's
her.
take a look. The bets are on the road that entire week and weekend, so I'm a really
Here
harass and
we
bully
go.
Daryl all week.
All right. It's bad dog press time. Come on.
It's Dunkirk all over again.
She's gonna pretend her phone broke again.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Jared is broken, and I don't have any internet connection. Gee, sorry. Leave me alone. Bye. No. Well, it'd be nice if we got all 5 out there. I don't know if we've ever done that before. I know we've had 4 out there before. But
We've had 4 because it's on our
Yeah,
writing
I've
pins
got a
that we
picture
have.
of it.
I've
Yeah.
actually got a picture of
We may have had all 5 of us at a women's basketball game at one point.
Oh, I'm
maybe.
sure we've
I don't
done
know.
that. Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure we've had that because Case would be the option there because Daryl's
Yeah.
usually at most of them. Case
Yep.
occasionally gets to him. But so come on out. If you can spot all 5 Cardinal Couple Raiders and staff members, we will give you a free pass to any women's soccer game you want to go to. They are free this year, so come on in.
The
All
full
right.
court press already
That's-
begins in our group chat.
That was sneaky.
That's right. You get to go to the UIC game. It'll be fun. If you see one of us out there, by the way, come up and say hi to us. If we find out you're not a creditor, we'll definitely talk with you and spend some time discussing the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics because that's what we do here. And so, with no further ado, let's move on into that. What do you guys think? Let's talk about some of the things that have been going on in the last week and some of the things that will be coming up. We found out that Peyton Verhulst is going to be attempting to make the USA 3x3 U23 FIBA team. This is big news, Case. Big news.
Yeah, it is. The first time that she'll be involved with the Team USA on the 3-on-3 side. Usually we've seen Haley Van Lith get a lot of run on those, but it will not be Verhulst's first experience on a 3-on-3 team. She participated last year in the Red Bull Championships with the team that Louisville put out. That was with Mikasa Robinson, Liz Dixon, and Kiana Smith. They finished in 3rd. That was a interesting event for them to be in. There were some collegiate teams there, but there were also just other basketball players that were in this event, as it's just kind of an open invitational. So especially with Verhulst being incoming freshman at that time, it was a really interesting mix of experience and talent at the event. Louisville ended up coming in 3rd. They did not play a 3rd place game, which I thought was interesting. I don't know why they didn't, but Louisville lost in the semifinal to the team that ended up winning. So they were the 3rd place team there. And like I said, Verhulst was part of that team. So that was good for her. She's also played with Team USA before. She was on the U19 World Cup team. They won gold in 2021. She was on the 2019 U16 team. They won gold at the America's Cup. So she's been in the Team USA ecosystem, I guess you could say, like Haley Van Lith. And this will be just another opportunity for her. It's really compressed. They went down there yesterday. The training camp ends on, or the trials end on Monday when they'll select the team for training camp to begin on Tuesday, and then the event begins on the 13th.
With the
So
13th, then it's
yeah,
sent
so
to
next
Domingo.
Saturday. So they'll be moving and shaking.
Yeah, it's pretty
Trying to
rapid pace.
especially when you consider the travel days built in there. So
There are a list here, guys, of pretty well known names in high school, college basketball here. You've got Maddie Westbeld trying out for this team. We all remember her from Notre Dame, of course. Uh, Fran Bellaby is in here. Joni Allen Taylor. Uh, got some players that could possibly get in here and do a little contribution. Jared, how does Peyton match up against this? Has she got a chance to make that 4-team roster?
Oh yeah, it's never a guaranteed lock, but I think she certainly has the ability and the skill and the kind of the background for it already. So as long as she goes out, she plays her game, stays aggressive during a lot of the points, which I think that's something that she is trying to work on developing in her freshman year at UofL. Is just being more aggressive. I think I could see her making that roster no problem at all.
And I was wrong on that. They're actually going to select, from what I'm reading here, guys, I think a total of 6 players.
yeah, that's right. And there's only 11 invited to the trials.
Yeah, so she's got over a 50% chance of making the team. That works out pretty well. I like her chances there on that. Specifics on this. What do we got here? How many games are they going to play? Are they in some type of bracket? What's the format here?
That's a good question. That is, pull that up. I hadn't expected to ask that. Um, so it's interesting because um, they're in the Nations League. So this may be a um, multi-segmented league, like multi-event situation. They're playing in the Americas Conference on the 13th through the 19th of August. So let's see if we can't find that.
Yeah, I'm looking at competition format here a little bit, but that doesn't really give me the actual teams that are playing. And it says there's 57 different national federations, 12 different conferences. Each conference has a 1-day event following the standardized format. It doesn't tell me who all's in it. Most wins. I mean, it sounds like it's pretty complicated stuff here if you guys are following along with this year. So it could be very interesting to see what happens. And it's all FIBA. So, we certainly wish her the best of what she does on it. I think they've got a good team there. Bringing Westbeld in gives them some immediate height issues right there. Being a pretty good center for being what is she a sophomore or a junior this year for Notre Dame? I'm trying to remember which. Uh, Obviously had a
I
lot of
want to
potential.
say junior, but I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, I'm not positive either on her. I think she was, and didn't she have a bit of an injury that had her out for a while, if I remember correctly on her?
I don't particularly remember that, but she is a junior, yeah, apparently.
But you've got some good players here actually that are representing. You've got a Stanford, of course, player, and Fran. You've got Joanne Taylor, fantastic at Texas. You got actually another Texas player on there with Aaliyah Moore, Quay Miller out of Colorado. Cards have had some experience with her. Celeste Taylor, we remember her from Duke. She'll be in there, and Alyssa USB with North Carolina. So there's a definitely ACC presence on there. The coaches, though, I'm not too familiar with. You got Damian Huffman and Lakeland Rowland. So,
So I found a little bit more.
good.
So there are 11 conferences. 12 teams will make it to the final. The winner of the 11 conferences and the host team, or the hosting federation. Yeah, the hosting national federation. So Romania will automatically get in. The final is in Romania, September 14th through the 16th. So the winners of each conference, and then Romania, and if Romania wins their conference, then second place would advance as well. We'll play in that finals event, the 14th through the 16th.
Yeah, a nice tune-up for Peyton, I think, to get ready for a very strong season that's
And I
coming up for Louisville.
found the conference listing. In the Americas, you've got Argentina, Chile, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, which compete separately, us, U.S., and Venezuela. So,
So it's
and
basically 5 teams,
six.
6 teams. Okay.
Yeah, and it's looks like it's going to be in Santo Domingo. So, 13th to the 19th.
Not anybody really scares me in that group, but then again, you never know. And so
Right.
obviously you want to put your best foot forward or your best team forward in this case. And hopefully we can get that and move on at it with it. And hopefully Peyton gets a chance to yeah, get some significant minutes in and gets the team. So best of luck to her on that endeavor there. Let's go ahead and switch sports here while we're at it, and then go to a very nice thing that happened for Louisville softball the other day is they were able to get a commitment from the best high school pitcher in the state of Kentucky or Commonwealth of Kentucky, whichever you prefer, uh, who was on a 39-0 state champion Ballard high school team. I'm speaking of no other than Brooke Gray, who I think was actually 31-0 or 29-0,
28, 28
depending
now.
on where you
28 and
look at.
0.
Yeah. I saw 31-0 somewhere. So, whatever. She won over 25 games, okay, and didn't lose any. And that's pretty huge. Some of her other numbers, if you'll just kind of take a look at some of the things she did here, and it's just amazing to consider some of these stats she had. She allowed only 26 runs in 165 innings, and she struck out 350 batters. Uh, wow, knock me down. That's amazing, Jeff.
Yeah, that's yeah. Amazing is the word. I don't know what other word I can add to that. That's a consistency that we haven't seen in a while. We've had some good pitchers, but I don't know that we've seen that level of consistency in their play. So this feels like a really big get for Holly April and the U of L softball team. We've talked about pitching, and maybe we don't really have the full staff approach to pitching that we ideally should. So this is, I think, a big step forward in that. Hopefully, anyway, we'll see what becomes of her.
She made a brief little statement. I've been trying to get in touch with her to see if I could do an interview with her and trying to work with her and also her ballot coach. Haven't heard anything yet, but still pursuing it. She made a little statement about the decision. She said, after much consideration, I'm sure there was a lot of consideration to have there too. I have decided to further my academic and athletic career. Nice that she mentions both of those in there. I love it when student athletes do that. At the University of Louisville, blessed to get to do what I love in the city that I love. It's a very nice statement. Uh, she sounds like she could even be Taylor Roby or better quality, guys.
Yeah, I
Oh
think
yeah, I agree. I'm gonna hop in real quick just on the case, but not only the stats that you mentioned there, Paulie, but the fact that her opponent's batting average for the year was .095, which I like to look at some of the other kind of the stats and figures there too, because
That's impressive.
just to see like how she's setting up other pitchers coming in behind her, and then a lot of maybe like what the defense is doing behind her, how she sets up her defense. I mean, she didn't. You mentioned the 350 strikeouts compared to only 49 walks, so that ratio is absolutely insane. A 7-to-1 ratio isn't something you see often in terms of strikeouts to walks at any level, and even at the collegiate level. I think what we've seen out of a lot of our pitchers recently has been, at best 2-to-1, a 5-to-2 ratio, something like that. So bringing somebody in with that kind of arm is going to be incredible. And she's a lefty. So we usually see right-handed pitchers on our roster besides Tasha Felder last year, who I think was a lefty. So having another lefty coming in a couple years will add a little bit of kind of a diversity and change up there in the pitching core.
I know that Jen Leonard, who we all remember as being on the Louisville team for about a year, actually it was doing some time being an assistant coach for Fern Creek softball. And just a pure happenstance, I happened to be driving by the softball field up there on actually going to go do something else. I saw him out there practicing and recognized Jen. Went up and said hi to her. She didn't remember me, but that's fine. No big deal. We talked a little bit, and I asked her about how the team was doing. She goes, "Well, it's going to be kind of tough on us tomorrow night. We got to go up against Gray." And you got this, 1,000 mile stare from me. It's like, Gray, is that a team from out of state? He goes, "No, that's Brooke Gray, the best pitcher in the state, without any doubt." She said, "If you're going to catch one of our games, that's probably not one of the ones to catch because we're not going to be able to do much against her." And I did see a box score on there. It was like 8-0. She struck out 13 or something. She just destroyed them. But it's a great get for us.
Yeah, those 350 strikeouts I put in the article, that goes to a K per 7 of 14.8. There's only 21 outs in a game of softball, so she strikes out on average 15, or strikes out on average 5 innings worth of batters.
It's like 2 out of every 3 batters she faces, right?
Yeah, Jared mentioned that she has a really low opponent batting average, so that she sets up pitchers behind her well. Except she, in 29 appearances, had 20 complete games.
Yeah.
Outside in those 9 other games,
sets up other pitchers in those rare occasions when they get to. Yeah.
in those 29 other games, 3 of them were blowouts so big that they just pulled her after 2 innings or something, and the team would go on to win in 5, 15-0, and so she just didn't have to pitch in those. One of those complete games was 9 innings, and she threw all of them. Another one was a perfect game. 3 others were no hitters. So yeah, she was really dominant in her junior year. I'm sure that she'll be hoping to continue her dominance in her senior year, and Holly April will be hoping that she can come do that for Louisville. One of the other things I mentioned was that she is a Taylor Roby potential replacement in the circle, but not a Taylor Roby potential replacement on the team. She doesn't hit, at least according to the Max Prep stats. So there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of the best pitchers in college softball don't hit, right? I mean, they just go out there and they take the circle 2 out of 3 games every weekend and are dominant, and that is what they excel at. And we've talked about the stress that it puts on Taylor Roby to try and be an all-star at both. So a different approach, I think, wouldn't be so big a problem.
Quick tidbit on that perfect game: of the 21 batters she faced, she struck out 19. It was a season high and I believe a career high for her.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
So it looks like New Albany High School right there across the river didn't stand much of a chance that game.
It just makes you wonder if you're an opposing coach and you're going up against that. Do you just tell your kids, try to bunt on her? Let's see if we can get a base runner. We'll build from there.
She's got like a 950 fielding percentage.
Yeah,
so that would work either.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to tell y'all to swing for the fence because that's not going to work. Just stick your bat out there, let her ball hit it, and then run as hard as you can to first base. Okay, we may have a chance there. That sounds about it. Here's a question for you guys, and somebody else brought this one up when we were kind of talking about her a little bit. How does a better than 4-star athlete in the state of Kentucky match up against somebody compared to California or Oklahoma or Florida or any of your other major softball states? How far along are we in softball compared to some of the states where a lot of great players come from?
You still got a little bit of development to go. I mean, you're looking at some of these big time schools, especially when you get to champions such as Oklahoma's been up there before, UCLA's been up there before. These are teams that are made up of a bunch of Brooke Grays. It's not one of these you get 1 or 2 really great players each kind of recruiting class. It's the entire recruiting class is just absolutely insane. But you have to start somewhere. You're not going to go from pulling off at best 600% win percent season in the last couple of years or so and jumping all the way up to a bunch of 4 or 5-star recruits. It doesn't work like that. You've got to work and develop over time. It takes time recruiting, and these coaches going out and sitting down in these households with the players and their parents and guardians, and you have to be able to sell them on the future of the program. A lot of these players, besides how's that going to impact me individually, a lot of them still want to know, how's this going to help with the team, the program? Like, are we, am I going to shine, but then we go and not make the tournament, or am I going to have a chance to make a big impact, but then we go ahead and we make the postseason and then make a long run? So it does take a lot of time.
I think to answer the question about Kentucky athletics, it's tough to say, right? There's a lot of these players that you don't know what they're going to do until they get to college because Kentucky's not known for being a prime athlete producing state as far as college and then pro sports go. Um, Basketball obviously is a little bit of an outlier, but basketball's a weird situation in general too because there's so few players on the team that one star player can have an outsized impact, um, and one star player out of the state can then look much better because of the smaller percentage. But I think in the diamond sports, Kentucky produces pretty good players. Probably not on the same rate of consistency as some of the other um, more climatically advantaged areas for diamond
Okay, yeah,
sports, where
I
they can
can see
play
that.
all year round. But some of the diamond sports players that the state of Kentucky does produce are really good, especially the city of Louisville. I mean, you had Adam Duvall come out of Butler. You've had some other MLB talent come out of the city of Louisville, including from Ballard recently, Joe Adell, who um, bypassed his time at the University of Louisville, where he was committed, and then has already made his way up into the Angels organization after um, less than 5 years in the minors. So um, Louisville or Kentucky can produce some good diamond sport athletes, but I think that just the quantity of them is much lower, which I think makes Louisville being able to land a player like Brooke Gray, um, being able to strike when the opportunity is there, is just as important. There may not be a ton of availability for local talent like this, but you can't let it get away when it's there.
I do believe we see good talent in terms of when it comes to volleyball, but that's also mainly just Louisville Catholic schools. So that's not Kentucky as a whole. But I think volleyball is maybe the one sport we've seen where Kentucky produces a lot of strong athletes.
We'll certainly hope to see some great things. Hopefully, no arm problems with her. And if you happen to be in our area and you like to follow softball, probably wouldn't hurt you at all. You might have a great time and go ahead and maybe watch her pitch a game or two when they roll around again, because she is certainly something that I've got great feelings about her. I think she's going to come in here and definitely be one of the pitchers to watch in the ACC. And I hope that I'm right in my prognostication here. We'll
I'm
see
just
what
gonna go
happens.
outside whenever they go to do starting lineups for softball games and listen for the starting lineup because I'm down the street from Ballard, and if they don't say her name, then I'm just gonna go back inside.
Well, there you go. I mean, if you're close enough where you can do that, case, I mean,
You hear
perhaps
your name, go down and watch. Yeah.
Yeah, just might walk down the street,
yeah,
Yeah.
you and Jeff could perhaps put a drone together and fly over and watch the game that way with a camera on the drone. Certainly, it's great to hear a local kid like that who can come out and really make some big noise and big news, and so we're happy for her. And I look forward to the chance of speaking with her down the road. We'll see how that works out. Other things that have been happening in the world of Louisville women's athletics, we found out that Justine Sowery, yes, our beloved field hockey coach, has added to the staff of the field hockey team. Jared and I were talking the other day about the turf out there and how that was coming along, and I didn't really get an update on that, Jared. I'm not for sure on that, but we've got Will Holt coming back to the program, who was a volunteer assistant here several years ago. Spent a couple years up at Indiana as an assistant field hockey coach up there. He's back at Louisville now with Justine Sauer as an assistant coach. And just a boy, I remember when he was here as a volunteer assistant and a student here. The guy had all kinds of energy. He was just all over the place, all kinds of interest, and they knew the game pretty well too. So this is a great move for Justine, I think, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. She's actually now looking at a fairly newer staff in terms of both Will Holt, who just joined, as well as Malachi Mann, who came aboard during the summer. So a couple pairs of assistant coaches that she's having to welcome back to the program, and I I think is she's produced a lot of talent on the field in terms of just players, and we've seen that where uh, plenty of All Americans have come out of University of Louisville field hockey. But the thing is, it's similar to the whole Jeff Walls and women's basketball situation. Is yeah, you've got a very strong program, but you're also developing all these assistant coaches that are going on elsewhere to continue moving up in the world, and that's what we've seen a lot with field hockey here. Is a lot of her assistant coaches and associate head coaches have gone on and started picking up bigger roles with other schools, and that's just part of the coaching tree. And it shows it's a good sign of success for Justine Sowery, and what she's doing is really phenomenal.
Justine will bring them in, train them for a couple years, then they'll go out and find an opportunity to do things on a head coaching level or such. Just a little background on Will. He's actually from Camarillo, California, where he did his high school stuff, but came to the University of Louisville and got his bachelor's degree in health and human performance, otherwise known as exercise science, from the University of Louisville in 2013. And then he went on to complete his master's degree in athletic administration in 2016. Certainly a couple of things I think that bode well in preparing you for being any type of coach in any type of program, really. He's also got a long resume here of actually playing in different events. He's been on boys' teams. He's done a lot of good things as far as playing for European clubs. He's an active player with the men's teams. He's played all over Europe, it looks like here, Netherlands, Germany, England. So I definitely think he knows a thing or two about the team, guys, for sure, and the game itself.
Yeah, he's got 146 caps with the U.S. and has scored 85 goals in that time. Um, that's pretty good. We've talked about Louisville's offense kind of letting them down at times, um, or being a little bit single-minded offensively. So hopefully, adding some real goal-scoring experience and knowledge to the team can help put that offense together in a way that doesn't depend on kind of one star player to get breakaways and make it happen, and not necessarily one star player, but kind of feels like Louisville's goal scorers have been actively slanted towards one person per game. They kind of don't spread it around a ton on field hockey, so it'd be great if they can kind of open up that offense a little bit more and um, keep the ball in the other team's half is a better way to prevent them from scoring. If you're not constantly having to go on the counterattack to score, it would be a lot more beneficial, and keep yourself closed off to more opportunities from the opposing team, especially since Louisville's defense and goalkeeping have been a little bit more of a revolving door recently than we would have hoped or expected.
And if you're looking to spot him, if you go out to a field hockey game, we'll let you know just this. He looks like a taller, thinner, different hairstyle version of Sam Purcell. Okay? So it should be pretty easy for you to pick out once you see him out there on the field. Uh, and we'll just stay with field hockey just a second before we get into women's soccer. We had the dilemma of who was going to be the goalkeeper for Louisville field hockey this year. The most recent roster shows that there are now two on the roster: a graduate student, Sarah Elliott, who had played at VCU and is from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And then we have a freshman in, I'm going to try to botch this last name if I can, in Logan Janarak, who is a freshman goalkeeper from Danville, New Jersey, just out of high school. So that question has been answered, guys. It'll be fun to see how the competition kind of works out between those two. So, Jared, you have one less thing to worry about now at night besides catching monkeypox.
Yeah,
We
at
got
least now I don't have to worry about showing up to take pictures and Justine Sari pulling me over to throw on some equipment real quick or anything.
just while
So
you're back. Yeah, while you're back there,
that's always
Jared.
comforting.
Let's just see if you can stop a couple shots. Not with your camera, but so it should
If,
be
if
fun
I
to
had
see.
a guess based off the fact she pulled in a grad student and a freshman for goalkeepers, is this season she's looking at Sasha Elliott as probably the short term one season goalkeeper. And we've seen that pretty much every Dutch player we pulled in recently is for UofL has performed well above beyond expectations. We've had several in the past few years, and it's a good time for Logan, the freshman, to be able to develop her skills, adjust to the collegiate style of play, and probably see some playing time throughout the season as well. And then that way, Logan will be the keeper, kind of the future for the next few years.
Just wonder how well Sasha, who I haven't really followed her career yet at VCU and what she did there. I'm just kind of wondering how well she knows Julie Cowheiser, who of course was also from Amsterdam in the Netherlands and was also who's she's a senior this year. Julie is. Sasha graduate school. I imagine they probably crossed paths once or twice throughout the years in their playing days over in the Netherlands. Certainly excited to see what she can do for the team, and let's hope that this field hockey team can turn around and be a team that once again gets to that NCAA tournament and makes a good run and can somehow avoid Harvard, right? And see how we do with that. Other things we do want to cover for sure here and get into is, of course, the fall sports season starting, as Case had mentioned earlier. It's women's soccer who's going to be the first women's sports fall team to take the field, albeit an exhibition kind of scrimmage game against Cincinnati. Case is still it's a chance for us to kind of see what is going on with the Cards. Without getting Karen Ferguson days too mad, give us your synopsis of what you think about this team this year.
It's going to be a wait and see kind of thing. It's just pulling up the roster. They've officially filled it out now. I was in the middle of counting, but there's it looks like at least a dozen newcomers to this team between transfers and freshmen. Um, who are up to 3 goalkeepers on the soccer roster, so that is an improvement over where they were not long ago. Um, but that's going to be a battle to watch as well. You have Olivia Pratipus and Eliza Zalak, which we've mentioned, both as redshirt freshmen, and then we have a true freshman coming in Aaron Floyd. Um, so 3 young goalkeepers. I can't imagine that all 3 of those players will be here in 4 years. That's just not the way that it works usually. With a one player position, um, you're not usually going to want to sit behind someone for your entire career if you feel like you could be beating them out and you aren't. So we'll see how that battle plays out. But as far as the rest of the team goes, there's a lot of new names. There are some um, familiar ones as well. You have 2 graduate students returning um, from the team a year ago in Maisie Whitsett and Sarah Hernandez. So they bring a lot of experience. We know those names really well. You also have redshirt senior in Raven Alexander. So whoever is um, in goal should have a lot of rapport and experience together in the line directly in front of her, with those 3 all being defenders. Louisville's offense has been up and down, but there should be some consistency there with some returning players. So we'll see if there are any rising stars coming in as these freshmen, and what some of our new transfers, Patricia Ward and Autumn Weeks. And Patricia Ward's a forward, so what she can bring as a grad transfer from Minnesota offensively, and yeah, it's going to be um, interesting to see how they come out next week against Cincinnati.
And one of the things I've noticed here, and Jeff, we can discuss this just a little bit, is the early part of the schedule. The exhibition against Cincinnati added Mark and Cindy Lynn. USC added Mark and Cindy Lynn. Xavier comes in, added Mark and Cindy Lynn. and then finally after three they go all the way to Northern Kentucky. What a road trip, right, to play Northern Kentucky. So it's nice that they're getting this core of early games in. I think, Jeff, in an area that they're familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that just lowers the stress on players to not have to travel so much. Even when you've got the resources to do traveling comfortably, like UofL does for its women's teams a lot. It's always nice to not have to worry about dealing with airports, and particularly with flying commercial. Ugh, they don't do that a whole lot, but some. And so being nearby, being at home for three of those dates, and then the nearby, you take a bus trip up to Northern Kentucky. That it just makes it a lot easier to deal with. You're getting to sleep in your own bed. You're getting to keep to some of your normal routine. It just makes it easier, less stress, and put you in a better place to get out there and put on a quality game.
And that's so important early on in the season as well to be able to do such as that. I had actually done an interview a little while back, a couple weeks ago, back with one of the new assistants on Karen Ferguson Days' roster that she's come out with. Talked a little bit at length, although it would be a horrible sound quality, with Nick Stewart, who's an assistant coach on the roster this year, joining Hunter Norton, of course. Uh, I think that it may be a turning point in some terms here, Jared, for Louisville women's soccer. Karen kind of needs to make a good appearance with this team to kind of quell some of the questions about her, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think you're just looking at, I think maybe COVID played a bit of a factor more than we were expecting with women's soccer. There's been plenty of injuries in recent years, kind of a high amount of ACL tears that we weren't really expecting from several different players in recent years. And then as much as I loved watching Mina play, I think maybe the program made a mistake relying too much on Amina and not trying to recruit and develop around her when she was here. Because her senior year, I think she accumulated and was part of like 90 something percent of all the scoring. So as soon as she had graduated and then went pro with Racing Louisville, that's when we saw the offense kind of stall. Which it's not a bash on Amina at all. It's a very high respected compliment to her, but it's just one of those things you bring in a star player and you kind of get comfortable and used to that player and spend a lot of time developing your whole game plan and everything on her, which we saw UConn women's basketball did with Paige Beckers last year and probably this year. But it's just one of those things. I think if you can bring in some nice offensive scores, I think it'd be great because, as Case mentioned, you've got a really strong veteran back line that you can rely on and not really worry about.
Always important to have a back line in front of you if you're a goalkeeper that gets along well and can definitely listen to some instructions. And just taking a look at this UC roster a little bit here, guys. There is some local interest there. Elizabeth Fortuna is a junior out of Christian Academy here in Louisville, who plays for the Bearcats. We've got a freshman in Virginia Goins, who was at South Oldham. We certainly know where that is, and so it's a close relative area to Louisville.
I should be familiar with two of the players on Louisville's team who played at South Oldham in Brooke Dardano and Evelyn Pazienza.
Absolutely. Yeah, they should know both of them. Kendall Green comes in from Assumptions. Uh, Pretty good defensive player who's a freshman for them. So, yeah, there's a little bit of Louisville connection there, although I'm just going through this roster, and it does look like they're pretty heavy with Cincinnati area high school kids. But I think a good test for the Cards here. What are some of the keys you guys are looking at that Louisville kind of needs to do out there in their first exhibition game of the year?
Establish a structure and a roster. I think those are they sound like goofy answers, but I think they're very important. Like we've mentioned, we know what's going to happen on the back line. At least what three of the starters are going to look like. Whether they go with the 5 wide back set that they did a few times last year, most of the year last year, or if they tighten that up, bring it back to 4, which is what they played for many years before that. Um, that'll be interesting to see. You'll have Maisie Whitsett and Sarah Hernandez right in the middle of that group, no matter what you do. So you can depend on that. But like I said, what you're going to do with the rest of the structure, and um, there was quite a bit of experimentation last season. Losing Amina Ekic, like Jared mentioned, uh, Louisville didn't really have uh, a plan in place, I guess, for that loss, um, and some of the other events that happened with players that maybe were set to fill that role. Um, things have happened since then. So Louisville just really needs to see what they're gonna get. And I think that uh, all these practices that have been happening for you know the last few weeks, um, Karen has been trying to figure that out. But there's nothing like getting out in a game against some other competition to see what you have and how your team's going to play and how they're going to react to different formations.
Obviously, there's some scoring options coming back. Emma Hiscock had a few goals in there for Louisville last year. Raven Alexander has got such incredible speed. She'll be back to try and put a couple in there. We get to see, hopefully, a full season out of Corianne Denty, who's had to miss a couple years due to injuries. She's back out, and hopefully, we get a full season out of here because she came in with so much promise and so much potential. I'd like to see if that's going to develop. And then Morgan Bentley, obviously, another one that can move the ball pretty well. And Savina Zambarini out of our old Louisville male, a junior. We'll see what she can bring. I could see some players here, Jeff, and Case, and you too, Jared, that could make a difference here. Is there any of those that you'd like to talk about maybe in a little more depth as far as the attack goes?
I'm still pretty well sold on Emma Hiscock being one of the top offensive output producers this season. I thought she's really started to shine late in the year last year. She looks good one on one against defenders. So it just depends how often you're going to want to run multiple defenders right up on her to prevent that, as well as uh, the time and effort she's put in through the offseason. I know she's made some videos with some of the other men's and women's soccer players at UofL this summer. Them just kind of working on their shooting and attacking from different points of the pitch and trying to, I guess, work on accuracy. But we don't see everything that happens behind the scenes and all the progress and development that goes on. But I think as long as her confidence is up there, I think she's going to be a strong scorer for the Cards.
Scoring what you need for sure. Jeff, any of these that stand out to you as one that we might be looking at as a possibly the next Amina Ekic, or at least a comparable score?
I don't really have the knowledge to comment on this very well. Emma Hiscock is certainly is a name that I'm aware of a lot and has done well so far. So I would probably look at that as at her as well. But beyond that, I would be really hard pressed to comment intelligently on it.
Does Justine need to adjust up I'm not Justine, but the Karen Ferguson days need to adjust up the basic attack mode in any case here, you think, to kind of get us a few more goals in the bucket?
And like I said, it's tough to say what they're going to want to do. I think that last year the experiment didn't really work with the structure that they put in place. As for players I'm interested in offensively, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Patricia Ward. She's a grad transfer from Minnesota. She was all 3-time all conference in soccer in high school. She was the track freshman of the year. She was the soccer offensive MVP in high school. She was the 25th ranked player in the Mid Atlantic region coming out. But at Minnesota, she played 65 games, started in 55 of them, only had 3 goals and 6 assists. She's listed as a forward, and being an offensive MVP, you kind of would have expected more from that. Minnesota is not really great, but they didn't have such poor results in her time there that you would think that the team performance is what led to such low numbers. So I'm curious. Louisville played a lot of that structure with Brooklyn Rivers, um, where you had speed at the front and you just serve her the ball, get it up there, and see what she can do with it with that speed. And when you've got a player that was formerly a standout in track and soccer, um, and scored a lot of goals before, but wasn't able to do it at Minnesota, I'll be interested to see if we see some return of that, along with more of the traditional offensive options, which is when Louisville saw some of their success in recent years. So uh, that's something that stands out to me.
I think we'll all be looking forward to this game on Friday night at Mark and Cindy Lynn Stadium, and then, of course, to discuss it next Saturday on the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast and see if we made any sense at all in our predictions and kind of thoughts process here about how the team might look. Let's certainly hope that they look pretty good in this exhibition. I know it's an exhibition. They're going to play a lot of different people. They're going to get a lot of different looks. It really doesn't look matter if you win or lose, but it would be nice to get a W and see us put out a sparkling effort. I think, guys, I really would. But golly gosh, I'm looking here at the big clock on the wall, and it's already past 12. So we have had a full discussion here of Louisville women's athletics, and let's go ahead and get into some final thoughts as we close out the broadcast. Jeff, start us out with some final thoughts.
Yeah, I was glad in the past 2 weeks since we were last on the air. I was glad to see all the rosters get updated on GoCard's site. It's good to be able to, we've pieced a lot of this information together from various sources and had pretty good knowledge of it. But it's nice to have those rosters updated so we can kind of look through, get to know some of the new players a little bit and what their roles are and some about them. You can see pictures online, but you don't always know how tall somebody is just from a picture, and which can be an impact in some sports. So I was just really excited. It really got me excited. Not that it takes much, but really got me excited to get fall's season started. These are updated for at least the fall sports so far is what I've really looked at. So it was good to see that and exciting and looking forward to it. So
It is akin to the countdown for a young child on Christmas Day.
it is a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we're getting closer. Yep, we can see Santa's sleighs getting loaded up with lots of presents for the UofL women's sports teams for sure. Case, what do you got for me?
Keep it on soccer just briefly. I mentioned it in today's article. We had Gabby Vincent back in town yesterday when the Spirit were here to take on Racing Louisville. Amina only got in for 5 minutes, trying to get a spark in stoppage time to try and score a winner. Wasn't able to make that happen. The teams played to a draw. Gabby Vincent was available as a sub, but she was not. She didn't enter the game. But I did find a nice picture from Getty Images from last night's game of the two of them reuniting, as in today's article, and I thought it was nice to see them together. Louisville likes to play up. Whenever any of their athletes get to play against each other at the next level, and it seems like pictures like the one of Gabby and Amina are the most common that comes out of those, which is showing that players that play at UofL together usually do genuinely enjoy their time together and enjoy their teammates, and I think that's an underrated aspect of UofL athletics at large.
Let's see if we can get Gabby back here to Louisville too. Put her on that racing team. Wouldn't that be great? Love to see that. All right, Jared, what you got going on, man?
A little bit of mirroring what Jeff said, and just excited that we've got sports coming, and plenty of reason to get excited when you've got sports back on the schedule again. And at this point, these next few days are going to feel much longer than they really are, as I'm just counting down the days and hours until Friday night comes, and I can pick up the camera and head out to Lynn Stadium to see women's soccer in action.
Jared will be out there patrolling the sidelines. You can't miss him. He's the one carrying the camera and also wearing his field hockey gear in case Justin Sauer needs him to play goal. So that will be fun to watch. As for me, just kind of a little bit maybe off sports subject, but mean, as you all well know, there was some horrible flooding that went on in eastern Kentucky a few days ago, where a lot of towns were basically cut off from civilization due to bridges being washed out and other things like that. It's been very, I think, rewarding to see some of our Louisville sports teams jump in and say, "Hey, we want to make a difference. Let's see if we can help out." And certainly a good example of that was the Louisville women's basketball squad, and a couple of others were at it. Papa John's Cardinal Stadium. Although it's not Papa John's anymore. Cardinal Stadium, collecting water to send there. It's one of the basic things that the people in Eastern Kentucky need right now. It's just simple bottled water, water to drink, water to wash things with, water for animals, things like that. And if you went out and contributed to that, like I did, thank you for doing that. It's very nice. It was just kind of cool to pull up with my two 24 count packs of water and see a couple of the Louisville women's basketball players take it out of my car. And I said hi to him. I didn't see Coach Walls, but he was probably out, doing some other stuff. But it was good to kind of see them do that a little bit. Kind of miss not seeing Haley out there with them, but still. And it's not too late. If you want to help out our brothers in need down in Eastern Kentucky, there are certainly a lot of varying ways you can donate. Always go through the Red Cross, too. A super way to do that. So keep those folks in your mind down there. Just imagine if it were you. But hey, thanks everybody for listening today to the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. It's been a pleasure to bring it to you, and we'll be here with you next week around 11 a.m. unless you know something we don't. Until then, have a great day.